Welcome today on a very hot sunny day, doing a review of the, let's be honest, most forgettable Ford Fiesta of them all, the Mk6. The Mk6 Ford Fiesta was released in 2002 and then replaced in late 2008 by the Mk7. It got facelifted around late 2005, early 2006. And the facelift brought about different headlights and bumpers, but everything else remained the same. Slight interior changes too, but I'll cover that later on in a full-length feature video. But anyway, the Mk6, I think it's one of the most forgettable Ford Fiesta ever released. And I think that's a bit of a shame, really, because there is still a lot to like about it. Just because they're very forgettable and they're very common doesn't make them bad in any kind of way. And actually, they're just as good as the Mk5s and the Mk7s that took over from it. So, these came in a range of different engines. You had 1.25, which was a big seller for these ones, a 1.4 petrol, a 1.6, and a 1.6 diesel. And you also had the 2-litre and the hot, fiery ST models. This particular one here is a Z-Tech Climate. It's actually a post-facelift, but I've done a few changes to it to make it... I'll explain in a minute in terms of styling. But essentially, it's a facelifted model. It's a Z-Tech Climate, and it comes with 1.4 75 brake horsepower engine. It was definitely one of the best cars for the reviewers, but not in every area. The car didn't do too well in the interior. It was better than the Mk4s. The Mk4s were notoriously cramped in the back. But other cars, by this point, cars like the Jazz and the Yaris were better, or just as good. And ultimately as well, it was the handling and the driving dynamics, the dynamic ability of this car, which was what won it for most people, which is what won it for the group test. This is better than pretty much any car in its class in terms of the way it drove. This was fantastic. And actually, to be honest, the reason they're still around these days is because not only were there plenty of them and they were cheap, but they were also quite reliable and fairly good on the old fuel as well. And so these sold by the bucket load and survived by the bucket load. But ultimately, they're hugely forgotten. But I wonder if that's going to be the case in 10 years when these cars become quite rare. Will we still forget about these and ignore them, or they become undesirable? Who knows? On the Mk6, like I said, it was a bit plain, if I'll be honest with you. It wasn't old, it wasn't dated, it wasn't bad, it just wasn't groundbreaking. It didn't stand out. Now, the Mk6 came with very flat, straight lines, but not square or boxy, just very flat and clean and straight. You can see its prominent flat curves in the bonnet. And it continues the contours of the bonnet in the headlight shape. So basically it's like replicated. Gives it a very swept back look right the way back to the top of the bonnet. And they have this different fascia. Now I just want to admit, this is it's a post-facelift model. You can tell because it's got a slightly different bumper, and you've got the disconnect between the headlights and the grille, whereas pre-facelift did actually connect directly to the grille. And the lower part is slightly different as well, different shape. I believe it's more inverted. But either way, this is a post-facelift model, but there's a few changes that have been made. So for a start, the pre-facelift lights have been added on, and a gear grille has been added on because it's chrome. It just looks a bit better. And the reason I put the pre-facelift lights on is I prefer the pre-facelift lights. They just look better. I prefer the stacked look. The post-facelift was better in the sense that you had a very simple light cluster and you had a little bulge at the top, so you knew when your lights were on if you were looking over the bonnet. But I just prefer this. I think it's more cohesive with the overall design of the car. But anyway, you had a very slab-sided design with swept back looks and your stacked headlights. In fact, the lovely stacked headlights with the kind of rhombus, I want to say, rectangular or swooshed rectangle lower vents, integrated fog light, standard stuff really. Honeycomb mesh grille at the bottom, honeycomb mesh grille at the top. It was okay. It's definitely tell it was released in 2002, but it looks good to this day. It just doesn't stand out. It doesn't say anything to anyone. It's inoffensive in a good way. But it also doesn't draw any attention, and this is why I reckon it's one of the most forgettable Ford Fiestas. Now, I'll draw your attention to the side of the vehicle. You see you've got this lovely bulge, actually. You've got the wheel arch that kind of curves around the wheel, but the rest of it's very flat, very straightforward, very straight-laced, really. You get this in the Mk2 Ford Focus as well. You've got a very low belt line. In the car, it gives the car kind of smaller proportions than the rubbing strips. I love a good rubbing strip myself. This being a lower model, you've got body kind of nothing mirrors, and then on top of that, you've got body kind of nothing door handles. You've got this lovely squared off window design. It's slightly different on the 3 doors. I think the 3 door looks sporty, obviously, and I kind of prefer the 3 door, but you can't beat the practicality of a 5 door. But essentially, it was very, very squared off. Funny enough, this was based, and this and the full Fusion were based on the Mazda 2, but they don't look anything alike, to be honest. This is a Z-Tech Climate model, so it came with things like, well, a few appurtenances of good design, I guess, like a rear bootlid spoiler. And I think it really suits this car. I mean, to be honest, I like a little hatchback with a bootlid spoiler. Just something about it gives a kind of sense of zestiness, zinginess. I like that, and this definitely has that. And actually, the bootlid spoiler complements the overall kind of, I wouldn't say squareness, but the overall shapeliness of the vehicle. Remember, this is very straight lace, and it suits it. So you have the high bootlid spoiler, but you have these old-fashioned style, you know, elongated, tall taillights go right away to the top of the vehicle. Typical Ford at this time, and to be honest with you, I don't really like long, tall taillights, but I think this one probably does it the best, if I'll be honest. I prefer a pre-facelift one. I think it's more cohesive with the overall design of the car, but this one's not too bad. It does the job. And actually, one of the reasons I'm changing these to the pre-facelift is because, unlike the pre-facelift, this actually has 2 reverse lights. Thank you, at last, some symmetry. So yeah, you've basically got your standard tail lights, nothing special. The light cluster is very simple. They've jazzed it up by making the reverse and brake lights circular, but I think it looks better square and smoked on the pre-facelift. But very, very simple. There's not really much to talk about the tail, the boot lid here. The tail is very much similar to, if you take the tail lights away, you've got very similar to a Mark 1 Ford Focus boot lid. Very simple. Black rubber strip again, very simple bumpers. They've changed it a little bit for the face. They now have the circular reflector inserts. But again, it's very simple, almost very plain. The Mk6 Ford Fiesta, what's it like to drive? Well, it's pretty much as you imagine it has to drive, really. It's just predictable, but not in a bad way. The Mk6 Fiesta's got a reputation for being, well, not just Mk6 Fiesta, let's be honest, anything from the Mark 4 onwards has got a reputation for being good to drive. And this is no different. This is in fact fantastic to drive. It really does feel like a little go-kart. Brilliant. I really like this car in terms of the way it drives. Now, what do I like about the car in the way it drives? Let's start with the steering. Sharp. Pin sharp, precise. There's good precision with the steering. It goes well in that sense. Now, I don't know what the suspension sets up with this car. It's not as sophisticated as the Mark 1 or Mark 2 Ford Focus. But the thing is, despite not being as sophisticated as the Mark 2 or Mark 1 Ford Focus, I don't know how they did it, but they make it work. They make it ride really, really well. It's a fantastic car to drive in terms of its steering. And you also have the fact that you have no body roll. This thing goes around corners very well. It grips. Look, by no means this is a bad car. There's a lot to like about this car. The way it drives is fantastic. It's one of the last kind of small cars that really does genuinely feel light. Most of the modern day smaller cars just feel a bit disconnected. This doesn't have that disconnect. You feel everything, good and bad, but it really is fun to drive. Practical as well. It's big enough in the back. It's good enough on the motorway. All the Fiestas weren't like that. You would drive them around town. They were really good fun. You could drive them, drive the wheels off them. But when you went on the motorway, they were uncomfortable. This is actually surprisingly good on the motorway, and it holds its own. It holds its own. Now, don't get me wrong. It's got the 1.4 engine that does help with this car, and I definitely advise if you're buying this particular Fiesta, buy it with a 1.4 or 1.6. You get a car that's cheap to buy, cheap to run, economical, affordable in pretty much every dimension. Let's get that one out of the way. Yet fun to drive, comfortable enough. Does the basics. It's a small car. I'm not going to ask too much for it. But reality is, it's a good car. Overall, you can live this every single day. There isn't really much. It would be nice if it was a little bit more comfortable. I mean, the Toyota Yaris did prove you can make a small car that was comfortable. And it would be nice if it just had a bit of a better image. But I reckon that'll come with a time when these become more, forgotten and the numbers dwindle, when people get nostalgic about these, possibly. I want to give it a 10 out of 10. I really do. I just think that it's not quite a 10 out of 10. It just isn't. It's a fantastic car. It's one of my favourite small cars I've owned. But I think really in truth that ride is a bit jarring and the image is just a bit too restrained. So despite all of its plus points, and believe me there's many, I think this car is a worthy but solid and still very, very good 9 out of 10. It's a good car, this Ford Fiesta. Don't ignore it. Now, if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like this video as well, and if you can share it, that would really help me out, help me grow this channel. I really hope you enjoyed it, like I said, and I look forward to seeing you in my next content. Thank you very much now. Bye-bye.